because as long as you don't know the context and the progression that you have made in the previous decades, it is very difficult to understand the potential of any particular technology. Covering whatever day-to-day applications of Web3 is also important, but that is something more of covering a news items and all, which is needed for large public. But then if you are serious about this one, then what actually happens is you must be knowing the understanding. You should be knowing the basics, because unless they say no, unless you know history, it is difficult to understand the present or plan for the future. Hello, Zaid, Kushal. Okay, another 5 minutes we have. So, in this new series of Web3, I'll be talking about all the aspects of Web3, the history of Web3. Hello, sir. Manmeet, good evening. Good evening, good evening. But in case you have any specific thing to be covered or any questions regarding Web3 from the things that you have already heard, you can ask me. And what I'm doing today is actually I will just start with the web, the introduction of web back in 1990s, and then Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and then I will compare Web 3 and its features with the existing one, and also the potential. Then I will be listing what are the different applications which can go or which is possible, such as like decentralized applications. And then finally, I will move on to some use cases and applications. So use cases are those things which are proposed to application. For example, it is possible, but somebody has to do it. So such a suggestion is called a use case. And then there are occasions where actually somebody has already applied a particular principle to a particular context, and that's called an application. I guess I am audible, right? Kent? Manmeet, Web3, technically the central core value of Web3 is decentralization. This was introduced sometime to around 2013-14 for the first time in the public domain, because about 4 years before that, actually we had this blockchain, which actually made decentralization possible. That means, so theoretically, decentralization was there for quite some time, but it was the blockchain technology which made it possible, because it enabled what we call peer-to-peer communication. So it is the decentralization is the very core principle of Web3. In addition to that, we have semantic web, we have artificial intelligence, other things, cloud computing, edge computing, and all. But they are all the technology which support it. But the fundamental idea of Web3 is decentralization and all the results of that. For example, decentralized finance, decentralized autonomous organization, decentralized currencies like cryptocurrencies. They're all actually stem from the same root called decentralization. So another 2 minutes, I'll be starting. Welcome back to this session. So you can post your questions in the chat. Once I get into the presentation, I will take complete time to complete my presentation and come back to the answering the question. Answer whatever the question that you ask in this regard. And then probably we will wrap up session with this one. Hello, Mustafa. Good evening. So, being an engineering faculty, I take a theoretical approach first, and then the applications, then the features, then the potential, and then the power, and then the implementations. Yeah, Mustafa, I'll be listing the differences just in my presentation. Maybe the slide number 7 or 8 will talk about that one. Just a minute, I will do that as a part of my presentation. Okay. So I think almost time is done, and we should start now. So once again, I welcome each and every student or every person who has entered the session. And today I will be starting a new session on Web3, and that is what actually I will do. So in this series, I'll be talking about understanding Web3 applications and use cases. This is a new technological platform for human endeavors. That means many things can happen on Web3 the way other things happened in, for example, Google happened in Web2 platform, Facebook also happened on Web2 platform, other things. So the reason why we should be learning is actually much of our future life depends on this. So I have a very simple agenda today. I'll be talking about web origin and evolution. That means how did the idea of web started in the 1990s and then how it has moved on the last 30 years from web 1 to web 2 and finally to web 3 as of now. And then once that is done, actually, then I will be talking about features of web 3. That means what are those fundamental things that web 3 has, which makes it an interesting platform. And based on that, what is that we can apply? And then the third one is actually applications and use cases of that means. Use cases are the suggested or actually recommended applications of a thing, and applications are those which are already implemented. So kindly look at this. So in the 1990s, the internet came into public domain. That time actually it was called internet, and the only thing that was possible at that time was actually file transfer. That means you can use FTP protocol or protocol to change the exchange files and all. So the first version of the internet acknowledged as the first stage of worldwide revolution. So when the internet was added with something called HTML language, it was possible to create documents and uh, put hyperlinks to that. So users can read information on the web pages. That means they can go to a web page and see what is there. There is to be a static web pages. For example, Harvard University has a page which it says what is about university and what are the courses available and all. There is no interaction possible, and the experience was highly decentralized. That means every company, every institution has their own websites, and one is not connected to another one. Okay, it was not connected to another one. So this was the thing. And instead of web2 content static and hyperlinked together. Okay, so that means content was there, but it is hyperlinked using what we call HTML. So web 1 is also referred as the syntactic web. What it actually means that you would understand syntactic web when I mention about the semantic web. So here the syntax was very important. That means you should write a proper program. Coding, coding according to the rules is very important. And all that you can see is a text on this one. So this was the first stage of the web, which was there in the 1990s. So look at this. Actually, here is a webmaster who would publish, and people will come and just see this. That means he is just seeing this, and there is no interaction between. That means he can't say anything or convey or comment anything back to the website. All that he can see is this content of this website. It is like seeing a film poster on a wall. Somebody, earlier people used to put wall posters of a film that used to be released very soon, right? That kind of a thing was there. So it is completely static. Or it is something like reading a newspaper. You can just read. You cannot respond to that one. So then there was a development, and which we actually what we have Web 2, which was actually called interaction was possible. That means now people can interact. That means, for example, you can go to Facebook, log in, and you make a comment on something, or you can go to Facebook, Instagram, and upload a image there or a photo there, or if you can go to Twitter and tweet there. So this was part of the Web 2. Okay. So the problem with this actually is it actually created some small companies, small number of companies which too much of power. For example, today we have Meta, which is called also Facebook, which actually has more than 2 billion users. It is much more than the population of Pakistan, sorry, China, and almost China, and even much bigger than India. So in a sense, actually, Facebook is the biggest nation in the world. Okay, so that kind of a thing started. And secondly, what happened is actually much of our content, for example, my ID, my uploaded photos, or my conversations, my likings, my dislikes, my comments, all are actually controlled and owned by the website. That's the reason actually Web 2 is called centralized web. So the earlier one actually is decentralized, the Web 1, and Web 2 actually is centralized. What's wrong with centralization? Centralization problem is actually since data is centralized, they will control whatever that you want to do. For example, they will force you to see the advertisement they will put, or they will keep you posting some information, some marketing information, because they control your data. Okay. This centralization of data and monetization uses sprung need for a web 2. That means we people were not happy. So why should somebody make money on my personal data? Number one. Why should a particular company like Facebook or Google decide what I should be saying or what I should be searching? So this reason, that means that this satisfaction with the web 2 actually created what we call web 3. So let me look at the Web3 definition. Before that, I can ask certain questions. I mean, I'm open for any questions. Okay. Uh, Mustafa, now I think you can you have understood the difference between Web2 and Web3. Yeah. Yeah. How is the data is decentralized? Okay. Data is stored in the decentralized platform. Suraj, I'll come back to, I mean, I'll come to this in probably in few slides. So in actually what happens in a decentralized this one, instead of central servers, each pair will actually, I mean, each node in the web P2P network will store the data. There is no one single source of data. Everybody will have a copy of that one. So that I will just cover right away now. So the first principle, now we should look into Web3, and the first quality of the Web3 is actually highly decentralized, driven by machine learning and artificial intelligence, and leverage blockchain technology. So that means these are the four things which are added to the Web3. That means decentralization, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technology. So by adding machine learning and artificial intelligence, I make my web more intelligent. So what it means is actually I can make it semantic. So whenever I speak to the web, it will understand my speaking and try to answer my questions. For example, you are not using just keywords. The phrases will have a meaning and the machine will understand it. Maybe people who are something like Alexa given by Amazon can understand this better, because when you speak to Alexa, it will try to answer your questions with right information. How does it do? It uses artificial intelligence. Okay. So the first quality is highly decentralized. And this result is real world human communication. Example is Alexa. So if you say, Alexa, where can I buy pen? It will come back and answer with an answer saying that you can buy pen in such places. Okay. Or if you can ask Alexa a question like, what is the weather today in, say, Mumbai, it will answer that. How does it do? Because it can understand your conversations, not just keywords and other things, then actually it can figure it out. So because of this decentralization, users retain control over the idea and content. That means you will hold the data, because data is stored in a node which belongs to a peer. Okay. And they can sell their own data. Instead of Facebook selling your data, they can sell your data. In this model, website without having their internet identity tracked. So today actually what happens is, suppose you go and tweet something, company can trace you back because you are logged in and done that. Similarly, if you go to Facebook and post something, company or even government or office police can trace you back because you are logged in. But in a decentralized where actually what actually happens is, you can log into website without leaving it internet identity tracked. That means you will be using what we call decentralized identities, which are just a digital signatures. Okay, Suraj, I think I have answered your question. Okay, 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 okay. So that was the first thing. The second thing is actually tokenization. This is very important. See, Web3, well, is decentralized. It has many applications. For example, now in the decentralized world, there is no centralized institution. For example, if I and you want to exchange some money, then there is no central bank which will do this. So that means in the P2P network, we need to create some values, and that is created by what is called tokenization. So tokenization is nothing but blockchain transaction which has a value which cannot be unaltered. So key to the innovation of Web3 is the digitization of assets via tokenization. For example, cryptocurrency Bitcoin is nothing but a tokenized currency. Tokenization converts assets and rights into a digital representation or token of a blockchain network. So, for example, suppose you create a token and call it a Bitcoin, that value remains on the blockchain forever. So that is called tokenization. That means you convert something, a digital represent, I mean, some value into digital representation. Okay. Cryptocurrency and fungible tokens are forms of digital currency. Okay. So fungible tokens are like fiat currency, like our regular notes, and cryptocurrency is created using a cryptography on the blockchain. Another example is non-fungible tokens, which can explain you. They are nothing but fungible token with added value or added uniqueness. Okay. The second value proposition of Web3 is tokenization. That means you can create value on the network itself, like blockchain of network, and you can do anything about that. You can own it, you can store it, you can exchange it, you can lend it, you can borrow it, and you can actually mortgage it and other things. So the first one, decentralization, and second one is tokenization. The third, now let us look into the difference between the Web 2 and Web 3. Now it is relatively easy to identify the major differences between web and Web 2. With the former, passively consult the web pages. That means you just go there, look at the wall poster posted on a house or a wall, and you come back. Where actually in Web 3, the generation of data, the difference are not as clearly defined. Okay. So now let us look into the term Web 2. The term Web 3 coined by a reporter called John Markoff in 2006. It refers to the new evolution of the web, which includes specific innovation and practices. Okay. And what are those innovations, practices? I will just cover in this. Okay. So now I think I have answered your question, Mustafa. What are the differences between Web 2 and Web 3 already, and how transaction take that I can tell you. Okay. So Mr. Kushal, I told you on the Web 3 platform, every asset is converted into a token, and every transaction is done in terms of tokens. For example, in our life also, in real world, how does the transaction happen? If you want to buy something, you get that item and pay money back to him, some money to him. Or if you go to bank and borrow some loan, and then you pay the interest. So there is an underlying currency which will help you to all these transactions. Similarly, in the Web3, using blockchain, they have created tokens. So sometimes they are called Ethereum, sometimes it's called Bitcoin, sometimes it's called NFT. But they are the fundamental value holding items which can be used for transactions. So the term Web3 was created by this. Okay. And now let us move on to this one. So what are the features of the Web3? So now that we know, we wanted to improve our Web2 to something better, because we are not happy with the centralizations. We are not happy with others controlling our data and movement. So we created Web3. So it has two features, decentralization and also the tokenization. Now we will look at what is actually the features of Web3. The first one is actually semantic web. So probably you remember in the first slide I showed that Web 1 is called syntactic web. So syntax means actually writing something according to the grammar rule. For example, when you write a C program or any program, you should follow the rules which are there mentioned that. For example, semicolon has a particular value, for loop has a certain value. So following those things are called syntax. That is syntactic value or syntactic representation. So now we have something called semantic web. The semantic web improves the abilities of web technologies to generate, share, and connect content through search and analysis by understanding the meaning rather than keywords or numbers. So here, keywords are not important, meaning is important. So for example, if you say that I want a cup of tea, you cannot write a program for that, because then you have to make a lot of logical and all. But in semantic web, you can do that. You can say, Alexa, let me know where do I get a book by Chetan Bhagat. It will understand that sentence, although there is a program behind it, which was not possible in Web 2. Okay. The second one is the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, like used in many of the invention, like automatic cars or driverless cars and all, is very important, because by combining semantic capabilities in natural language processing, that means you speak to that. For example, today it is possible to search on Google search engine by speaking. For example, if you can open up your mic and microphone and say, Google, tell me where can I park my vehicle here? Then it says, okay, here is a parking lot. So now this is done by what we call natural language processing, and they will try to understand your intention and try to answer you. Okay. So this way, the three pillars of the Web3 is semantic, that means which can understand your instruction and your request; artificial intelligence, which will try to interpret your message; and natural language processing, which will help anybody to enter. For example, you don't have to know programming to use Google search today. You can actually, you don't have to even to be literate. You don't have to know typing and all. Okay. The third one is actually the 3D graphics. So 3D graphics are fundamentals for games and all, but the same can also be used in the creation of metaverse, which is nothing but a 3D space, virtual space created above on the platform of Web3. Okay. Connectivity is important because what happens in the web and all, people can be participating anywhere and any location. Now, what actually would happen is, suppose somebody is participating in Tokyo and elsewhere, then to get information from him or to pass on information, we need a huge network that is taken care by connectivity. And today, this connectivity is supported by what we call 5G network. Ubiquity, what actually happens is actually Ubiquity is actually computing is everywhere today. For example, it is there in your mobile, it is there in your desktop, it is there in railway station where you book a ticket, it is there in ATM and all. Okay. Now, in addition to this, we are actually using IoT devices which will extend our ubiquity. That means until today we were getting information only from computers and the other people in the network. From now onwards, actually, you get from IoT devices, which are smart devices. For example, you can put an IoT sensor in your garden and see what is the humidity, so that you can decide when to water your plants. Or you can put an IoT in a room, then actually decide at what time you can actually put your AC on. And the sixth technology which we are using is blockchain. So what blockchain does is actually, I told you, convert an asset into a digital token, which you can actually start exchanging or using it for the other transactions. Not only that, because the transactions created by the blockchain are immutable, that means they cannot be changed. They can be used for many things like controlling user personal data and their gain. For example, we have something called decentralized identities, where you actually create a digital signature and exchange with other person. On a blockchain platform, this can be verified whether it belongs to you or not, then do that. So it also help you to be anonymous. That means you don't have to tell who is doing what. You only tell what he is doing. He will go to a shop and buy without mentioning his name or gender or a location. Okay. Decentralized, I already told you, it is an idea of removing centralized organizations like Facebook and all content. And the final one is edge computing. There is a lot of computing involved in the Web3 platform, including metaverse. So for that reason, you need cloud computing plus edge computing. Edge computing are nothing but the devices which will help you in the edge. For example, if there is a mobile, much of the communication will happen there, but much of the processing will happen in cloud or the edge devices. So here is a brief comparison between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. Web 1 actually basic web pages, HTML, e-commerce, Java, and JavaScript. That means it was very static. Now Web 2 came, that was social media. The Facebook is a great example. Instagram is another example. User generated content. What it means is actually whenever users go to something, he can tweet. That's called user generated content. Or somebody can go and upload a photograph on Instagram. That is also user generated. Or even things like or comment, they also user generated content. Okay. Now we have Web3, which is a semantic web. That means it can actually understand you. A great example again is Alexa. And we have D apps. D apps means decentralized apps. That means the companies don't produce these apps. Some people or someone will produce, but they don't store your data. They are actually decentralized. Users monetize their data. That means they can sell their data. For example, if you are a very famous person, then actually you can sell your personal information so that the other people can use it for different things. Okay. Then again, we have what is VR and AR, virtual reality and AR, which is nothing but metaverse on which actually are done, and artificial intelligence. Again, I told you for controlling all the data, and interoperability is very important today. What is not possible, for example, if you are in a Facebook, you cannot Google search. You cannot use Google for searching because that is outside. Similarly, if you are in Gmail, you cannot send a WhatsApp message. The reason is they are separated. But in the metaverse and in Web3, that will be interoperable. For example, if Google has their own metaverse or a Web3, and say Facebook has that, then actually you can migrate between them very easily. Okay. So are there any specific question that you want to ask now? Okay. Okay. The question is, how is data stored in the decentralized platform? Suraj, I told you, data is stored in the nodes in the network, and these nodes are controlled by peers. That means some user. So there is no centralized database like central government's Aadhaar's database or user database in the Facebook. And Kushal has asked how transaction works. That I told you. Once the value is created on a token, tokens are exchanged for value. I mean for the transactions. And Adesi is asking how does blockchain technology work? Okay, let me tell you very briefly. See, blockchain technology actually creates what we call trustless platform. What it means is I and you can directly communicate with each other without depending on a third party. And to do this, what blockchain does it creates a transaction which cannot be changed. That means if I send you something today on a blockchain and you reply to that, and this conversation or this transaction is stored in such a fashion that it cannot be changed anywhere, anytime, and it's always verifiable. So once this idea is there, using this you can create a token, which is a Bitcoin kind of a thing, or it can create an NFT, or you can create an asset and other things. So using this, blockchain creates what we call tokens. Tokens are basis of everything in the blockchain. I hope I have answered Aditi. And Kushal is asking what are the languages used in Web3. See, I told you Web3 is consists of many pillars. So if there is an application that needs to contact or communicate with the customer, then we are using semantic web. Okay. So if you want to collect lot of data and analyze, then we are using artificial intelligence. So there is a language behind that. And similarly, if you are using blockchain, then there is a language behind it, like solidity and all. Okay. So Kushal, the language choice depends on the domain which you are working within the Web3. Okay. So now that actually I have told you what is Web3 and its features, now it is time to move on to what we call how web can change our life. So with the so what actually Web3 is, with the addition of semantic and machine learning, Web3 is an evolution in which computers can understand meaning behind information. Okay, they can learn what you are interested in and help you to. So here is an interesting example that you can do. Okay, look at this. This is very interesting. Okay, in Web3, while driving, you can ask your automotive assistant a question like, "I would like to watch a romantic movie and eat Punjabi food." So today it is not possible that you go to Google and say this, that I want to watch a romantic film and actually I want to eat Punjabi food. Okay. So, but in Web3, because they use artificial intelligence and semantic web, this question makes sense. The search engine embedded in one car assistant provides you with a personalized response. Now that it knows that who is asking those questions, and then it will give a personalized answer. See, personalization is a very required thing. For example, if you go to a doctor, he will not suggest you something which he has suggested for others. Okay, he will actually test you with all the parameters and then he will suggest you. Similarly, Web3 will be capable of actually suggesting you a personal answer that considers your location, suggesting a closest cinema that matches your request. For example, if you are asking this question in Punjab, say in Noida, then you will get a different answer. But suppose you are asking question in Bangalore, you will get a different answer because the Punjabi restaurant in Bangalore may be in a different location and it will find out from your GPS and answer this question. So Web3 and the semantic web is capable of understanding all these parameters when you ask a particular question. For example, I told you, you want to see a romantic film, then it says there is a theater called Majestic in Bangalore, you go there, the current film is running here. And for that actually it will go to the newspapers and the film guides and it will read the reviews and suggest you something. And Punjabi restaurant is automatically consulting the reviews on the social media. That means normally people give some kind of a review and feedback to every hotel, every film, every restaurant they go. And now your assistant will actually go through that and figure it out whether it is recommended by many people and then will suggest you. Okay. So by making semantics and natural processing, now it is very easy to talk to a web today, and that capability is there in Web 3. Okay. Now I can use top web use cases. Okay, look here. One of the greatest application of the Web3 is actually metaverse and metaspaces. Metaverse is nothing but a 3D space created using virtual reality. Now you can create 3D immersive spaces. It could be a game, or it could be an office meeting, or it could be three avatars. You can also have DeFi applications. What it means is decentralized finance. That means you don't have to go to bank. You actually create a financial institution on the blockchain where actually only participants will contribute, and they will come out with some schemes of giving loan to somebody or investing in elsewhere. Decentralized finance is another one. Advanced gaming, play to earn. That means today in gaming, actually you pay money and earn. I mean, you get an access and play. But now it is possible that on a blockchain platform, you can actually earn certain things like avatars or in-game assets using some schemes within the game. So that is also possible. Privacy and data management. This is very important. So one of the problems in today's, that is Web2 environment, is actually data piracy. So you give data to Facebook, they will give it to somebody else. So many a times, many celebrities will find it hard because sometimes their photos are leaked, sometimes their private information is leaked. But using blockchain technology, you can avoid that. Okay, they use cryptography, oracles, and zero knowledge proof. What it means is there is a method in cryptography where actually you can exchange information without revealing yourself. For example, today what happens is you have to exchange OTP or you have to exchange your email ID with others. So when you are exchanging, people in the middle actually can capture it and start misusing it. But in blockchain, using zero proof concept, actually you can establish your identity without exchanging any information. So virtual real estate is also one great area it is doing. Remote workplace is another application of Web3, and NFT users is also another application. So now this is the conclusion of my session, where actually Web3 is the latest in the long list of improved version of the internet. It is expected to be the new platform, and actually is going to help us a lot in days to come. Okay. Aditya, I think I have answered your question. Okay. Uh, what is AI P2P? Okay. So, well, Zaid, AI is artificial intelligence. It is a science within computer science which will help you to understand the data and get insights. So at personal level, for example, if you are using your mobile, okay, then mobile will collect all the information that you know. For example, where do you go, which shop you go, and this actually creates a profile for you, and this profile is used for making recommendations to you. For example, I showed you an example of somebody asking, I want to see a romantic film and also go to a Punjabi restaurant. Now it understands this. So in Punjabi restaurant, whatever the earlier visit that you have made, that information is collected by your mobile or other assistant by the way that you have made a payment and all, then it will help you. So that is called artificial intelligence. But that's a personal level. But it can be used at industrial level also. For example, if a company is hiring some people, it can look at the history of hiring and tell which candidate is good at that. Okay. Then the second question that you ask is P2P, that is peer-to-peer. What it means is on a blockchain network, you don't have to depend on a third party. For example, today, if I want to send you money, then the money is actually will come from my bank account to your bank account. That means there are two entities like I, you, and the bank, which comes in between you and me. But that is not very good idea because banks make a lot of money for every transaction, which is not necessary. But today, now in blockchain, it is possible for me to send money directly to, that is called P2P mechanism. Okay. So, any more questions? Let me summarize. Web3 is an important technology and it's a platform that is going to grow. It has a long history from the beginning to Web 1, which was a static one, and second web we are called centralized. Now we are coming to decentralized. This has many features like semantic web, artificial intelligence, other things, which will help us to create many applications, which I showed you. And yeah, so if you have any specific question, you can ask me. Okay. Otherwise, tomorrow's session will be on DAO, that is called DAO. So this is the second important concept in the Web3, where using the idea of blockchain and tokenization, we can create a new kind of a organization called DAOs, that is decentralized autonomous organizations. Why do you create them? How do you create them? What are the benefits? Will be what I will be using in the uh, tomorrow session. And Mustafa is asking one question: how Web3 is used in medical space? The answer is very simple, Mustafa. See, Web3 can be used for decentralized applications and also on 3D graphics. Okay, 3D graphics. Now, using this combination, actually, I can create what we call a metaverse. So, metaverse is a virtual space. So, once I create a virtual space, I can take you there. That means you can have an avatar and actually I can take you inside there. So, it is possible that I can take both patient and a doctor in a medical instrument in case to a virtual space, and I can ask to drive. I mean, I can ask the doctor to treat the patient using a metaverse platform, and there is something called haptic gloves, which will help doctor to touch the patient and use that. So that is one thing. And there are many other applications where actually doctors and patients are separated. They can be brought into Web3 metaverse and do that. Okay. And I think I can share that example probably in the next session. But that's one. Okay. There is something called haptic lenses they can use. And finally, Kushal has asked how secure is Web3? To compare to Web 2, Web 3 is highly secure for a simple reason that it uses what we call blockchain technologies to preserve your data. So, as I told you earlier here, okay, one second. Okay, so you can see here, who is this? Okay, Kushal, you can see here. So privacy and data management is a central theme within the Web3. We use cryptography. Cryptographies are used to encrypt and decrypt data. And if you have been using WhatsApp in your daily life, you know that every time you send a message, WhatsApp tells you that messages are encrypted and decrypted end to end. That means before the data is moved away from your WhatsApp message box, chat box, it is encrypted so that the intermediate people cannot actually read it. So that is used in the Web3, and also we use oracles. Oracles are the agents which will pass on information between two entities without divulging their identity. Okay. And I already told you zero knowledge proof. Zero knowledge proof is a mechanism where actually you can establish your identity without revealing your personal details. For example, if somebody asks you like, what is your age? You don't have to tell your gender or your place. But when you ask for a place, you don't have to tell your gender. So you can selectively tell this information, and actually you can control much of your personal data in that. Okay. Suraj, I told you the technology which is used is blockchain, and the concept that is used called zero knowledge proof and oracles. Yeah. Okay. So hope I have answered your questions correctly. And so if you are interested in Web3 and all, tomorrow evening at 6:30 you can come join my session. It is a 6:30 here on the crater. Please come and join. But in case you have any question, you can answer me. I mean, you can ask me. This is my number 636068790 Okay. Otherwise, we can stop here. Bye for now. So join me tomorrow. I will I'll be doing streamings on Web3 for next 1 month up to 12th October. I will be doing, I have already planned. So kindly join me. Okay, bye bye. So hope to see you all tomorrow. My approach will be little academic and little application because I come from an engineering teaching background. So unless I tell you the basic features, basic history and all, it is difficult for anybody to understand. That's the reason I am approached. Okay. Okay. Tomorrow, 6:30 in the evening. Bye bye. See you.